There's something different about you. What is it? What happened today?
We got married!
Hi everybody. We've waited an awful long time for this, but before we take this plunge, let's take you back to the beginning and I'll explain. Not that far back. Or that. Getting closer. There. That's me. Cute little guy, huh? Strange as it seems, I wouldn't exist without this place. Killarney Provincial Park. That's my parents. You see, in the early 1970s, shortly after the Mammoths had left the park, while on vacations with their families, these two would meet for the first time, and just a few years later, here we are. I guess you could say adventuring is in my blood. Over the years, I would go on to do some pretty cool things, and I loved every moment. Even if it did leave me puking my guts out from time to time. Eventually though, my interests changed a bit, and I found new hobbies and things to occupy my time with, and years went by. I was content, and then I met her, and it was like I was a kid again. That's Sugar Pie. She enjoys the simpler things in life. Although she may not have been an outdoor baby like me, she did have at least a bit of an adventurous side once, and was even in the Sea Cadets, which is funny considering her reaction to some of her kayak trips, but we'll get to that. We started dating in 2017, and after that, it wasn't long until that old spirit of adventure kicked back in, and we started venturing out to some pretty cool places together, having all sorts of fun. On Valentine's Day of 2019, I did the smartest thing I've ever done. I proposed to her, and she said yes. Since we weren't in a big rush at the time, we went about planning a small backyard wedding for spring or summer of 2020, and we all know what happened next. So those plans went out the window, and suddenly there was nothing much else to do for a while. As time went on, Sugar Pie seemed to get more depressed each day. By January 2021, we decided one way or another that this would be the year, and we went about arranging a wedding for late summer. Unfortunately, not everyone was as excited as we were, and when someone close to Sugar Pie all but accused her of trying to put people in their graves if she went ahead with our plans, no way! She finally lost her shit, and some measure needed to be taken to keep things from going from bad to over. So what do you do when someone's confidence and feeling of self-worth has been broken down to nothing? When it's the person you love most in life? Well, I thought back to all the fun we had prior to you-know-what. Came up with the idea of getting mountain bikes. Why mountain bikes? Well, that's how I do it. Anyway, I figured getting out and riding would be a great way to spend time together. We've never mentioned it before, but Sugar Pie is dyslexic and has some of the learning difficulties associated with that. And while she's open to almost anything eventually, new things tend to make Sugar Pie a little nervous. I hope that taking on some of those things and overcoming those nerves would go a long way to help her regain some of that lost confidence. Of course, as would become a pattern for us, things are never quite as simple as you would hope. Case in point, Sugar Pie's bike. Sugar Pie is small, about 5 feet tall, with the right shoes on. And the bikes we bought were a little larger than they looked in the pictures on Amazon for some reason. This was the second ride we did together. Now imagine the first. That's why I had her camera for the second, third, fourth, and most of our rides since. As awkward as it was for her though, she was slowly starting to get better at it, and before she got too good,
You gonna get on and go?
I thought it might be fun to document and share our adventures with the world, and very soon after,
Hi everyone, welcome to the first ride of Adventures with Sugar Pie.
Okay, try it again.
Hi everybody, welcome to the first ride of Adventures with Sugar Pie.
a star was born. Okay, we're not exactly viral sensations, and that wasn't our intention, but we did now have a great motivation to keep up with the rides and to keep getting out and going places. The city we live in is a central hub and a network of trails through our part of Ontario. Riding them together was pretty great, and we had a lot of fun making our first YouTube videos together. But the problem with being in a central hub is there are only so many spokes, in this case 3. Soon, we'd ridden all the spokes and found ourselves in the town of Port Dover on the shore of Lake Erie, and now we needed somewhere new to go or something else to try. This moment right here gave me an idea, and it was a double. The first order of business was to get a cheap 2-person inflatable kayak and head back to Port Dover, where we would get out in the water and hopefully convince Sugar Pie we weren't going to go down like the Titanic or get eaten by Jaws. There are very few icebergs around here, and Jaws died at the end of all those movies. All 4 times. Anyway, I was fairly certain we'd be safe, and after a little solo test, eventually Sugar Pie was on board with the next part of my plan, and I got to hear something from her that never gets old.
Well, I already said you were right. I already said you were right. I already said you were right.
Ha, I love it. Now that she was mostly confident she might not die out on the water, we were able to do something I had wanted to do for as long as I've known about it, and that brought us here, Killarney Provincial Park, somewhere I hadn't been in a long time. Okay, not that long, but it had been more than 25 years, and I was looking forward to going back. Sugar Pie and I had been together for a few years at this point, and this will be her first time there. I'm sure I'm a little biased, but I think it's the most beautiful place in all of Ontario, and I couldn't wait to show it to her. We were there to climb Silver Peak, the highest point in the park, and the highest point in the ancient La Crosse mountain range. It's not exactly Mount Everest, but Ontario doesn't really have any high mountains, and this would be new highs for both of us. We needed to kayak for this because in order to access the trail to the peak, we would have to make it across Bell Lake. Besides using this trip as a way to check something off the bucket list, it was really just the next step from what we were doing, and that was to keep challenging ourselves and for Sugar Pie to overcome more of her fears and anxieties.
I'm a little bit scared of heights, so it is actually a pretty long ways up. But still, it's so gorgeous.
We accomplished both on this trip and had such a great time that just 2 weeks later, in less than 40 kilometers west, we took the next step.
I just want to show I got a new bag.
And with brand new backpacks, hit the Heaven's Gate Trail near the town of Espanola. While Silver Peak was a fun and challenging hike, over the next 2 weeks we bought enough basic equipment that we thought we were ready for more.
Hi everybody, welcome to Heavenly Gates Trail. Welcome to Heaven's Gates Trail. This is my first backpacking outing. It's my first backpacking trip and I'm very excited.
This hike would be very similar to our Killarney trip, only this time we would set up camp and spend the night in the backcountry for the first time. It wouldn't be the last. I've camped a lot in my life, but this was only the second time I would be out in the backcountry and a first ever for Sugar Pie. As with most new things for her to this point, she spent many of the days leading up to it on the verge of throwing up from nerves. Once we hit the trail, however, we got so preoccupied with navigating the terrain and having fun that she was able to embrace the challenge and thoroughly enjoy it.
What are you laughing about?
Me putting on my bag.
I had never been backpacking, so this was another first for both of us. Boy, did we learn a lot.
This stick is for walking. It actually helps a fair bit. I'm gonna call it Twiggy.
Alright, fine.
I had looked into this trail fairly well. We had all the maps we needed and had a good idea what we were in for the most part. But I hadn't seen many videos or photos, so my favorite part of this trip came as a big surprise to both of us. After hours of what we come to know as a fun kind of suffering,
This is steep.
on a rugged trail, we got treated to what to this day is still my favorite view in Ontario.
Holy cow. Oh my gosh.
And of course, camp wasn't so bad either. At the end of the weekend, we accomplished a couple more firsts for both of us, and Sugar Pie was now afraid of a couple less things. We felt so good about what we were doing, and were having such a good time, that just a couple of weeks later, we were set to bring a special guest with us up to Lake Superior for a night on the coast. When at the last minute we were informed we were clueless morons out to get people killed in the middle of nowhere, that plan fell apart. Hearts were broken, and so was some of that hard-earned confidence that Sugar Pie had found up to that point.
No way!
We made the best of it though, and when weather changed our plans some, we found ourselves back at the Heaven's Gate Trail again. Only this time from the other side. It was a shorter and easier hike, but after being called an irresponsible idiot, it was more important than ever to get back out and to continue building on what we started.
Finally, one that I can handle.
I'm not going to lie, it wasn't exactly a pleasant trip.
It is on and is picking up every fucking word you're saying.
Why the hell didn't you turn it off?
Because I'm recording this, for fuck's sakes.
Oh.
Sure, we enjoyed the hiking, and the scenery was beautiful as expected, but Sugar Pie was determined to find a way to feel guilty about how things went, and I was having flashbacks to earlier that year. Sugar Pie did save the day at one point when it was getting later and we were unable to find the next trail marker.
The trail markers had been great all the way through the trail until about like 10 minutes before the camp, and then they disappeared.
Our map wasn't being much help, and we were just starting to turn around to find a spot to camp back the way we came when she remembered the navigation app we had on her phone.
So we went to alltrails.com and got their app because it shows where you are and where you gotta go.
So using that, we navigated the gap between trail markers and had a pretty decent night right on the north channel of Lake Huron. After we got out the next day, most of that confidence had been restored and we were already talking about where to go next. And there was really only one choice for both of us. Back to Killarney. It was cool being back there when we did Silver Peak, but Killarney's a pretty big park, and we only really experienced a small part of it. We booked a site in the campground for a few nights and spent an extra long weekend taking in as much as we could on both land and water. We got Sugar Pie back in the boat for the first time in a couple of weeks, where she got to play around by herself for a while, with only one small freak out. Then we followed that up with something that would have us wondering if maybe we did go a little bit too far.
Today we're gonna try to paddle out to OSA Lake. Well, this is my first trip out and the first trip in a kayak since Silver Peak, and so I'm excited and nervous.
We would paddle our inflatable kayak some 8 kilometers through 3 different lakes before a short hike to a 4th, then return back to camp. Another 8 kilometers back through those same 3 lakes. What was intended to be an early morning start turned into a late afternoon start when it rained half the day. And by the time we made it to our destination, the sun was getting pretty close to setting.
We made it to SHO Lake, OSA Lake.
Shortly into the paddle back, I turned off the cameras and we pushed to beat the darkness at least through Killarney Lake. We actually made it onto Freeland Lake before it was too dark to see anything, and we did get some help seeing from Mother Nature along the way in the form of an incoming thunderstorm.
We're right between George Land and Freeland and George Lake. We're trying to paddle back to our camp, and it's actually pretty dark out.
If there was ever a point when Sugar Pie was going to say this is too crazy, no more, this was it.
And we're taking a bit of a break for shelter because it's just raining out a little bit, and we're just gonna see if it lightens up a little bit more.
But she didn't, and of course it all worked out, and we made the dark paddle back to camp and a warm fire, and to this day, this was one of her favorite adventures. The rest of the weekend was spent taking in some of the park trails and having a good time. It was really nice to be able to bring her here and experience things that were such a big part of my life growing up. Through all my childhood, summer times always meant one thing: camping with family. Over the years, we've camped at a number of different places all over Ontario, and when it comes down to it, there is no other place that's held in as high regard in all my family as Killarney Provincial Park. Year after year to this day, members of all our family can be found here, enjoying the campground, beaches, trails, lakes, and each other's company. With this in mind, early in 2022, we decided that this was the year we were finally going to get married, and this was the only place we wanted to do it. Sugar Pie's family had never taken a vacation together ever, and we really wanted to give them one and share that experience with them. And this seemed like a great way to do that, as well as making them part of a family tradition. We planned a small ceremony with the intention of spending most of the weekend having fun.
Yeah, I got peed on.
Relaxing around the campground with visions of campfire songs or something. We would handle booking and paying for everything and anything to make it as simple and stress-free for everyone as possible. Funny how something that sounds like such a good idea to us can be seen so completely different by somebody else. Sugar Pie's family had no interest in any of our plans and wishes regarding our wedding's location for 1 second. After being summoned to a family intervention, it was clear they did not want any part of our wedding unless we got married seemingly anywhere but Killarney. The biggest reason cited being fear of highways, lack of proper washrooms, and camping being of no interest to them, despite having already booked a room here as only the ceremony was going to be held in the campground. And all this made us selfish. No way! I disagreed, so for the summer of 2022, this was me. I could have taken it personally, but of course I did try and kill the only member of Sugar Pie's family brave enough to ever make the brutal 5-hour drive with us to take in the boring views. Spend the night in these caveman-like accommodations. For Sugar Pie, this would be yet another hard blow. For most of her life, she has always put everybody else's happiness and well-being above her own. You can never please everyone all the time, but that's never stopped her from trying. I'd be lying if I said I didn't have more flashbacks to 2021, but outside of Sugar Pie's family, everyone else in her life was fully supportive of whatever we decided to do. The easy choice would be to just get married somewhere closer to home. Her family was more than happy to suggest any number of places that would work better for them. But would it really be our wedding at that point? We had some thinking to do. Except for this setback, we felt pretty good about what we had been accomplishing. Excellent! So we went on with all of our plans for 2022, and what a year it's been. No sooner had the snow melted before we were hitting the water at where else? Killarney, where we did some backcountry kayak camping. Another first for Sugar Pie.
We heard something splash like a dunk. Long behold, it was a bear. And so we decided to make some noise and shine the light around to hopefully have it swim away.
Had this happened on our first trip into the backcountry, it may have been the last time Sugar Pie would ever go camping with me again. If you're wondering how this affected her this time, well, here we are 2 weeks later back in the boats doing it again, only farther and more difficult.
There you go. Bring it over here.
We spent the summer building on what we had started the previous year and really took every opportunity we had to get out somewhere and do something. By the time the weather had warmed up, we were out of the boats and hitting the trails to get ready physically for our upcoming honeymoon. While we could have done a Niagara Falls honeymoon, like seemingly everybody, we had other plans. This was our idea of a honeymoon. A week alone in the woods and mountains of the place we wanted to get married. Just a couple months later? Okay, apparently hiking is really popular, and booking the campsites along the La Crosse Silhouette Trail is really a race to the reservation windows. Having failed to secure the sites for the week following our wedding there, in July of 2022, Sugar Pie and I made the 78-kilometer hike around the La Crosse Silhouette Trail together, spending 7 nights alone in the heart of Killarney's backcountry. In under a year, we had gone from our first hike up Silver Peak to this amazing experience that would test our physical and mental strengths and all the knowledge and experience we had acquired over the course of more adventures than I could have dreamed one couple could do in a year. Did I mention it was amazing? At no point on this trip were spirits down. We challenged ourselves along the way in so many ways and came out smiling through every moment. And how could we not? What a place. We finished every day's hike sooner than we had expected, and we completed the whole trail a day ahead of schedule. And we both made it out safely, with memories that will last a lifetime for us and an experience that we're proud to be able to share with you all watching. Not bad for a couple of irresponsible morons, huh? Not bad. Now that we had survived the honeymoon, it was just about time to actually get married. We could have chosen to get married at a number of places, but I don't exist if not for Killarney, and for that, I'll feel forever connected to it. And my family history here goes back to the early 1970s and continues to this day. Maybe we would be selfish by choosing to be married there. Then again, it was our wedding. For family and guests, weddings are mostly 1 or 2 day celebrations. For the couple, it's the rest of their lives. When the ceremony is over and there's nothing left but the hangover and embarrassing videos, the location no longer matters to anyone else. But it matters to us. We spent the last year creating more memories here than we could have imagined. This is where we first set out adventuring together. This is where Sugar Pie and I learned just how much we can really count on each other when it really matters. This is where I wrote my part of our marriage vows, on the morning of our wedding, because this is where we got married, on September 11th, 2022, at 4:20 p.m.
Excellent!
Here at Killarney Provincial Park, I married the most amazing person I've ever met, forever connecting both of us to this amazing place and time in our lives, and to hopefully someday share it with future generations. There really was no other place that felt right for us. We would have liked some things to work out differently, of course. We did our best to accommodate everyone that would have shared this with us, but at the end of the day, if you've met the right person, you only get married once. It wouldn't have felt like our wedding had it happened anywhere else.
There's something different about you. What is it?
We got married!
Yay, was it a good day?
It was an incredible day. Don't have words. It was amazing, and love everybody so much.
Here we are standing proud as we start the next chapter and begin the greatest adventure of our lives. We've learned a lot over the past year. I think the greatest lesson is that life is too short to live it anyone else's way but your own. This is us, this is what we do, and we're damn proud of that, and nothing else matters.